years difference between my father and him.
Yeah.
Now, what was the age difference between them approximately?
You know,
I think it was 17 years.
About, yes, I think, I should have gone through my records, but I didn't.
But up at the cemetery, I
You
looked at the
looked at the
difference.
numbers and did
So
the
it could
math.
have been 18,
And 17
you know.
years can make a difference.
Yeah. And then how much time between when he passed and when she passed?
20 years.
20 years.
Yeah,
She outlived
yeah.
him by 20 years.
Yeah, and I think she was 20 when she got married.
So they lived to be about the same
Yeah.
age. It was just 20 years off.
Yeah.
She was young.
Yeah, Grandpa went to the doctor and he says, when you're having your heart problems, and he goes, the doctor asked him, how old was your mother when she died? 63. How old was your father when he died? 63. How old are you? 63.
Oh.
But Grandpa didn't die at 63. He lived a couple more years.
But if they would have had bypass surgery when they were 63.
Yeah.
I think it was 67.
But yeah, something like that. It was really funny.
Well, I know that Lloyd was always so proud of his daughters. So proud of all of his daughters. And the little grandchildren and so forth. And Natalie, you and I met long ago. I remember the first time I saw you. Do you know where it was?
Outside of the Mill Street house?
No. My husband and I always enjoyed concerts and plays and etc. And there was a play down in Pismo Beach. And let's see, you were there. You were spending the summer in this area from Hawaii. Am I right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Marcy, you were there. And Natalie, I thought to myself, oh, what a darling looking girl. You, of course. And so, yeah, that is when I met Natalie.
So what, do you want to talk about the Villas up in Cayucas? So they've been there pretty much forever.
Okay, now are you talking about which group?
I do remember Dad saying when they would go into town in...
From where?
In Cayucas.
Okay.
He said there was a man in Cayucas that would yell something like, "Here comes the Indians." But I told you that.
I don't know.
What? Where did Inez? So Inez grew up in Cayucas.
I beg your pardon?
Inez grew up in Cayucas.
Yeah.
So she would have gone to school there and church there?
Yes. She went to St. Joseph's Swiss Church in Cayucas.
Inez, you mean?
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know.
Okay.
But it was the only Catholic church there.
So do you have any stories or any knowledge of Mike Villa's parents? So that would be
Roberto and Maria Guadalupe Higuera.
Yes. What were they like? Do you have any stories about
I
them?
never met them, unfortunately.
He lost his arm.
Oh, that was Robert. Yeah, that was my grandfather.
Okay, and I was asking about Roberto was the next one.
To his wife's family. So yes, now the home that they had in Cayucas is still there. I showed you.
Yes, yes.
And it's quite lovely.
Yes, it is.
And expensive.
Currently, it costs a lot of money, yes.
That two-story house that
Yeah.
Dad helped build?
Yeah.
It's tucked back.
She didn't know Dad helped build. Dad and his father went up there and...
Yeah, Dad took me by and showed it to me, and it was built before the freeway.
Absolutely, absolutely. And the interesting thing is when they left San Geronimo, they moved to Cayucas, and most of the Villa siblings had married, most of them. My dad had not, and Uncle Mike had not.
Okay.
So I understand that those two brothers were the last ones living with their parents, and that they lived in that house on Cypress Street.
Now that doesn't quite jive, because Mike must have been married because he helped build that house. So Mike must have been married.
Okay, now you're saying Uncle Mike helped build that house.
Yes,
And
and
I
my dad.
understand that it was, oh dear, Doogie.
Doogie, yeah.
And that he worked with Doogie then, is that
Yep,
right?
Yep.
And now that was not Manuel Doogie, that was the older brother who was.
So this is one of the son-in-laws helped arrange to have it built. Doogie was a son-in-law.
Doogie,
Yeah.
who was married to Aunt Mary via Doogie, and Aunt Mary was the oldest child in this family of 10.
Okay, now I'm going to ask you an embarrassing question. I haven't prepped you. Any skeletons in the closet? Any gossip you want to share?
Let me think. Well, they were not drunks, they were not drinkers, they were not jailbirds.
Nobody in prison, huh?
No.
That's a
No.
good thing.
No.
Thing.
No. They were decent people.
Okay.
You know, I knew every one of those siblings, you know.
Okay.
Every one.
And did they talk about their parents?
No. Because we, you know,
Nothing to say about nice people, huh?
I was too busy growing up and
Oh, I know how that
going
is.
through the war
Yes.
years,
Yes.
dancing.
Did you tell people you used to go dancing across the street here?
Yeah, well, there were 6 divisions in San Luis Obispo that came through Camp San Luis Obispo. And when I say we gals, I mean my friends and I. We were just at the right age, like 21, you know, 22, you know?
You broke some hearts, didn't you?
Well, we didn't, but we all, I can speak from, we all had a fellow in each division.
And this was a USO?
We danced many a dance over there.
And was Bill in one of those divisions?
Bill was in the my husband was in the last division, and war was over. He had been in Europe in the Battle of the Bulge, and that was cruel. So war was over in Europe. They brought the Timberwolves back to the States for an R&R sent the Timberwolves to Camp San Luis Obispo to get them ready to send them overseas to wipe out the Japanese. Well, of course, then, you know, the bomb was dropped in Hiroshima. The war was over. Okay, well, Bill was in the last division. I can tell you the moment I saw that man, the moment. And he cut in on, I was dancing, big crowds, these wonderful GIs. That's the truth. And so, yeah, and so, dance was over, and I thought, well, and that was the end of the evening, and I thought, well, what a wonderful dancer, what a nice soul. Well, I'll never see him again, so okay, I don't even know what his name is. The next night was a USO dancer right over here. He was there, I was there. We danced and danced and danced, and then he's a very quiet, rather quiet man, but he asked to walk me home. And that was in August of 45, and the next year we were married in 1946 at the old mission in April. Yeah. And we were married for 48 years until on one Sunday morning I found him in the bathroom floor, and he had suffered a cardiac arrest. So, anyhow,
Arleen, did your folks live on Churro Street then still?
yes, but it was Mount Pleasanton Drive.
Oh.
Mom and Dad bought that home in 1941. And it was you remember the house?
Yes, they moved it, right? Or,
No, they moved
Your house.
our home. Our home was the second GI loan home built in San Luis Obispo after World War II. And we told our contractor we had purchased a lot for $750, and we were in the county at that time because the dividing Murray Avenue was a dividing street of San Luis Obispo city limits, and we were in the county. And so we told our contractor we cannot afford a house that costs more than $6,000. So he built us a house for $6,000. I now have a $33,000 kitchen in a house that cost $6,000, and we added on to it. But my husband was a native of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and his parents came from Ukraine. They could see the handwriting on the wall with regard to the beginning of the Russian Revolution. So there are many, many Ukrainians in the East Coast from Canada on down into New Jersey and that area. Yeah.
So how did you decide to stay in San Luis rather than him take you back to
Well,
Philadelphia?
Bill had a job waiting for him at Westinghouse, and but he liked this area, and he had met me. So he decided, no, he wasn't going back. And so and then he thought about going on to school under the GI Bill, but really didn't know what to do. His father had been a tailor, and he thought, well, so we checked into going to tailor school. Well, that wouldn't have been very practical. So, particularly in today's society. But Bill was a natural in the kitchen. He had always worked as a youngster, very ambitious, and around kitchens. And then when he was in the service, they sent him to cook and baker school. So when I was having guests for lunch, he'd say, "Oh, Arleen, just move over." He says, I'll do the salads for you." And he would do them very artistically and so forth. Good. He taught me to cook. I think.
You know, some of my sisters don't know Michael. Do you want to talk about Michael?
Oh.